Welcome, Wildcats, to another episode of the Weber State Weekly Softball Show. We're a member of the Big Sky Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Colby Peterson. On the show today, we have returning to the panel, Jessica Euler, Weber State's own. Jessica, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty dang good. Glad to be here again.
Yes, we're glad to have you. And then we also have the Signpost's own, Emily Miller. Emily, the sports editor at the Signpost, joining us once again. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm glad I was able to come back.
Yeah, we're glad to have you back, and we're excited tonight to talk a little bit about softball because we had a banner weekend up in Pocatello. So let's talk a little bit about the show tonight. We've got a player interview for you folks. We're going to be interviewing reigning Big Sky co-player of the week and freshman catcher Mika Chong. She's on the show tonight. Talk to us a little bit about her journey from the Bay Area to Ogden and Weber State and the success that she's had at the plate, which has been a lot, earning her Big Sky Player of the Week honors right now. So we're going to talk to Mika a little bit about that. Then we're going to do a weekend review, talk about the 3 games, very windy games up in Pocatello this last weekend against a good pitching staff like we talked about last week. And so we'll dig through that series and then look forward to this weekend series against the T-Birds. The T-Birds are coming to Ogden for the last time for a conference series. So we'll talk a little bit about that and kind of how we expect that to play out. So before we get into that, we want to encourage everybody to subscribe to the show, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all great places to interact with the Weber State Weekly team and get that good stuff right in your ears. We're also on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Twitter is a great place to chat with us. And then we have Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/Weber State Weekly and become a patron and support the work that we're trying to do to highlight athletes like Weber State's own Mika Chong tonight. And then go ahead and give us a rating, whether that's on, one of those podcast channels. You can always rate us on Facebook. Ratings are the new gold, I guess. I don't know. Ratings are super important, they tell me. So we would hope that you would rate us wherever we are. Help us to get some of that street cred. We know you love us. Let other people know that you love us, though. That's the secret. And we want to give a shout out to our sponsor tonight, Studio 98. If you're looking for a ring that's not boring, it's really cool, designed by a fellow Wildcat, check out Studio 98. They're a local jeweler run by, like I said, fellow Wildcat and former football player. The spring game is coming up in a couple of weeks. And so check out their designs on the website. It's studio98.com. That's studio98.com. They got a lot of really interesting stuff. They use a lot of different woods, a lot of different colors. From what I've seen, they've been selling around town in Ogden lately as well, showing up to pop-ups and things like that. So check them out. But if you miss them, you can always go to their website. And I bet you if you put in a request, they will make you this ring right here on my finger, a Flying W ring. So check out studio98.com. Really want to thank those guys for supporting Weber State Weekly. So now let's get into it. Let's bring in freshman catcher Mika Chong. Mika, thanks so much for taking some time to chat with us on Weber State Weekly.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited,
let's
start from the beginning. Like I said at the top, originally from the Bay Area, just south of San Francisco, close to Palo Alto. Really nice place to grow up. It seems really nice area. So talk to us a little bit about that, about playing softball in the Bay Area. I mean, is softball like really, really big in the area? Like, talk to us a little bit about your high school days and kind of your journey of getting recruited.
Yeah, so growing up in the Bay Area, softball, for girls at least, is pretty big, I would say. Like you go every city pretty much, they either have their own league or their own team. There's a lot of club teams and a lot of people who are just really competitive there. And so, like growing up in the Bay Area, I think that there was a lot of competitive people playing as well as just like the whole atmosphere around the Bay Area and around where I live. Softball is pretty much a big part of like how girls grew up. Um, in high school, I'd say kind of the same thing. Um, the high schools near me, there were a lot of schools that were just really competitive. It felt a lot like, mm, I'd say like a not as competitive club ball team, but honestly, high school was always really fun. You got to meet new girls that you wouldn't usually play with, and honestly, it was just a really fun time. And then being recruited, I'd say just California in general, just really, really competitive. Everything there is competitive, fast paced, yeah. But I like getting recruited was really looking at schools in the snow. Not necessarily Weber, but just schools that would give me a different atmosphere. And I really want to experience something new. So um, I was reaching out to just a bunch of schools, and Coach Amacone just showed interest, and I was just like, I'm gonna go check out Weber. So my dad and I drove up here during my spring break, and we this was during COVID also. So we were just standing from afar. We probably looked really weird because we were just like two people just staring at them having practice. But Courtney Kemper, actually, she showed me around. She showed me the dorms, kind of all of that. And then I was able to take a tour around the campus. And honestly, I thought it was really cool. Just the campus is so beautiful, and I came when it was spring, so everything was kind of like starting to bloom, but there was also still snow. So I was like, oh my God, this is perfect.
Mm.
So yeah, that's kind of how I really started wanting to go to Weber. Yeah.
And so, like you said, California, very competitive when it comes to softball. I mean, we've talked to some of your teammates who have come from Southern California and, standout players like Chloe Camarero. When we had her on the show earlier in the season, she talked about how just, she was playing at the club level and there was a lot of competition. And so she felt a little bit behind in some ways, but we've seen the success that she's had, and so California just seems to be a really, really good place for the Wildcat Club to go and find talent. They found a lot of talent like yourself in California, both now north and south. And so it seems to be working out pretty good, whatever Coach Hemicone and staff are doing, recruiting you ladies to come to Ogden.
Yeah. I say there's so many girls here that just aren't from Utah, and I was so shocked when I came here. Like, there are girls from Hawaii, girls from not Seattle, Washington, but like there's just so many girls from like the West Coast that I just wasn't expecting, and I think that was a really nice surprise when I came here as well. I wasn't able to meet all the girls when I came because of COVID regulations, but
Right.
like when I was able to come, it was so cool to see so many different people here. So that was one of the other big things that I was like, oh, this is so cool. Yeah.
Mika, when you were looking at schools, how'd you find Weber? Like what drew I know you were looking for schools in the snow, but like how were you like, this is somebody I'm gonna email? What'd you come across that made
Oh,
you think this?
yeah. So honestly, like I was just looking at schools and I was just kind of researching. There wasn't really like a pinnacle of like I found Weber. Weber kind of just found me, and we kind of just we or yeah, we kind of just met, and we just like meshed really well together. Um, like originally, I really wanted to go into business, and I think I really solidified wanting to go here when I took a tour because they were like, oh, we have this really good business program. And I was like, oh my God, I want to go into business. Now I don't want to go into business, but that's a different story.
So what are you
So,
doing now, Mika?
so now I'm going into professional sales. Kind of similar, not the same, but I found that business just was not for me. So I changed from business to sales. And I am very much liking it now. It's really good. Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool.
Sorry, Goddard
Yeah. So
guys. Accounting is boring. I don't know if you guys know that. Accounting is super boring because I'm with you, Mika. I was like, I kind of want to go to business, and then I had to take all these accounting classes. Like, man, I'm gonna take these classes because I have to, but I'm not gonna like it. Just
yeah,
saying.
exactly. Oh God, yeah. I was talking to Chloe because Chloe is in business and stuff, and she's like, yeah, like I took statistics, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna look into major changes. This is, I'm not sure about statistics, but yeah, definitely. So the business program really hooked me, and I'm really big into art. So they also had a really good art program, and I was able to go into the art building, and they
Hmm,
have this beautiful mural of a butterfly, and I was like, oh yeah, this is so cool.
that's where I need to be.
So
I love
that
it.
also just was great. It was great. The whole
And
experience, just being able to visit.
by the way, I mean, if you guys don't know this, I mean, so a little Weber State secret here, guys. So inside of the art building, there's a little coffee shop called Art Elements. Best coffee and hot cocoa on campus, guys. It's in there. It's in
It
there.
is
Yeah.
very true.
Emily, you have any questions for Mika Chong?
No. Well, what's been your favorite part, maybe besides softball and academics that you didn't know you were gonna love about Utah? Oh my God. Okay, so the people and like this is so weird. I like coming here, I didn't know a lot about anything about Utah. Really, I just was in my little California bubble, just living the life out there. And then I come here and people are so chill here. No one's like bustle, 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 like gotta get places. And I'm like, wow, people are really mellow here compared to California. That was shocking. Also, just I think everyone's more chill here. Yeah, it's great.
I
Seems
love
Yeah.
it.
right. Seems right up your alley. I want to talk now a little bit about your high school year, Mika, because I was doing some research in prep for the show and found your Max Preps page. And when I saw your numbers, your senior year in high school, you went to Hillsdale. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Uh, um, they just jumped off the page, and so I wanted to make sure that we shouted these out. So you played in 20 games your senior season. In those games, you had 39 hits. 9 of those were doubles, so that's an extra base hit. 1 triple, and then 10 home runs in, like I said, 20 games. That's just absolutely those are just bonkers numbers. Like for stats folks, her OPS was like 1,700. So it's just like what? That's like that's a dumb number. That's just like such an insane. Like you just don't see that. So I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about that because it feels like that success that you had in California, all the work that you put in at the plate in high school is now paying dividends for you in a Wildcat uniform, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I want to talk to you about what helped you to find that success in high school at the plate.
I think just putting in a lot of time outside of practice too. Um, I found that like just having a good set of girls behind me to back me up, and then also just making sure I do put in that extra effort and I do like do all my drills and this and that. I think that really helped me. Yeah, I kind of went into senior year like, okay, this is your last year. Just like have fun, make it a good time. Don't stress too much about softball because that's not what softball's supposed to do. So I kind of just was really just trying to have a good time during my senior year.
Yeah,
So yeah.
seems like you
So,
did.
and after your senior year, so I remember right at the beginning of this season, maybe even before the season started, we talked a little bit about, how Coach Amy Cohen is doing a great job. We have a whole bunch of great seniors and fifth years on the team, but she consistently builds up this freshman class. And I remember us talking about you being a player to watch. And oh my goodness, so you've come out and have just had some really big moments this season. You've had 11 RBIs. You had back-to-back home runs. Like I was telling, I think it was last week, I was saying they bring Mika in to pinch hit. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how's this going to go? And you hit a home run for heaven's sakes. So can you talk to us a little bit about coming off the bench into pinch hit and kind of how you found success at the plate?
Yeah, sure. I think honestly, coming into pinch hit, I really enjoy it actually. I know a lot of people don't like pinch hitting. They're like, "Oh my God, I only get one chance and this and that." I'm just like, I honestly am just so grateful to be in the games because being able to play with everyone here, it's just a wonderful time. They're so talented and everyone's so just like competitive and athletic. I've been using that word a lot, but they really are. And I just am really grateful to be able to play here. So whenever I get an at bat, like to pinch hit, I'm just like, well, do your job. Number one, do your job and just like kind of make the most of it. That's really all I'm here to do is make the most of my time. And so just going up, just not having a plan, but not thinking too hard about the at bat. I find that most of my success comes from not overthinking. So yeah, me and Coach House talk about it a lot. Um, we say just go up there, swing the bat, and it works. So that's kind of just what I do.
I love it. You seem to have a really laid back attitude about all of this. Do you think, I mean,
Yeah.
to have done such incredible things already. I mean, 2 home runs as a freshman and back-to-back games is really incredible, Mika. I mean, you strike me as being humble, but also laid back. Do you think that that helps your strategy in the game?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, whenever I remember the first time I was in the starting lineup, I was just so shocked. I was like, "Are you sure?" Yeah, it was just a wild time because it was in California. I was just like, "Okay, this is different." Okay. Yeah, definitely though. I think just like being calm and like having not a carefree, but like a very mellow attitude towards each at bat, and then just not holding on to anything in the past either. Just like, oh, that's also okay. Big thing. I don't look at stats. Don't know what a lot of the abbreviations mean. Um, yeah. I mean, just I've tried not to look at them, just so I don't have stats in my head like, okay, like if you hit this one and you don't hit the next one, you're gonna be batting a 500, this and that. And once I start thinking about that, it just gets really muddy. Not good. But yeah, definitely just staying in the game and then just having a good time and trying to stay mellow. Key to my success.
Yeah, I
So
like that a lot.
trying to
Oh, I just want to mention
go
one
ahead.
thing that, like, whenever before we started the show, Mika said that she found out she was Big Sky Player of the Week from her mom. So just to reiterate the fact that she's not looking at stats, it's like, I just found out I was Big Sky Player of the Week because somebody else told me. So I think your attitude about all of this and your approach, Mika, is really awesome. Emily,
Thank you.
sorry, have at it.
No, you're okay. So I just have a quick question. You've said you're familiar with the competitive nature of just softball in school, like you said in California, but focusing on basically not focusing about all the small things about softball, has that helped in the transition of being a student athlete? Have you been able to
Definitely.
also focus on school?
Yeah, I think at the beginning of my college career, wow. Okay, but yeah, definitely at the beginning, I was struggling. I was definitely just not prioritizing right. I think now that I'm in my second semester, I got it a little more on lockdown, I guess. Um, yeah, I'd say the first couple weeks were just not my best, not my shining moments. Yeah, also homesickness, that also got to me a little bit. So, yeah, but now I'm good. Now everything's really just, yeah, we're chilling here. Yeah.
Mika, one other thing that I wanted to mention before we go. So, by the way, you're batting 583 right now, which is also a bonkers number. Um,
Nice.
uh, I wanted to ask you a little bit about this stat. So, looking through preparing for the interview, I noticed that thus far this season you have 24 at bats. You have not struck out once, not a single time in 24 appearances. And of those, you've had some success. You've got 11. You got 14 hits. So you go to the plate 24 times, 14 times, you come away with some kind of a hit, and also that falls with 11 RBIs. And so I just wondered, like, strikeouts is one of the most difficult things about baseball and softball as well, right? That, like, just being
Yeah.
able to get the bat on the ball and do something with it. That's players will go through these highs and lows, but it seems like you've been able to be very, very consistent, very deliberate at the plate, making sure that if the ball it's going to go somewhere, or even if it's not, you're not swinging at pitches that you shouldn't be. Talk to us a little bit about that discipline to be able to see the ball well, because now you're playing at the college level. I'm sure that pitching is a little bit different than it was back in high school. But you all have played a very, very tough schedule thus far. You've seen some really great pitchers. So talk to us a little bit about that, about how you're able to maintain that discipline and put the ball in play when the opportunity presents itself, because you've done a great job thus far.
Thanks. Yeah. Um, I'd say one of my main goals, probably everyone's main goals, just especially when I'm pinching, is try to be productive, have productive at bats, whether that be like getting a walk or just like moving a runner. That's always my main goal. I find that I don't usually strike out looking. Striking out looking is one of those things that I will not allow myself to do.
Hmm.
Not like a motto, but one of my just mentalities is like, if you're gonna go down swinging.
Hmm.
Just like, you have to try till the end. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Honestly, I'm surprised I haven't struck out this season, but yeah, that's one of the big things is just like as long as you're trying and as long as you're like putting in the effort before you're at bat, it's like it's all like a lead up to your at bat, and so I'm definitely putting in work before, and yeah, just trying to swing and make contact. I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's no real key to not striking out. You kind of just go up there and try your hardest. So yeah, I mean competition here, pitching wise and team wise, just really good. Yeah, very different from high school. That was another major shift. That was just like, sweet. Okay, but yeah, you have to adapt or I have to adapt. Yeah, just trying to improve every day, get better, and then don't let your accomplishments go to your head. Don't let your failures go to your head. Just kind of that.
Mika, I've got just one last question for you, and then we can ask Jessica and Emily if they've got any final questions for you. But on your Max Preps page, it mentioned the fact that you had played both catcher and third base, a couple of really key defensive positions in high school. Weber State currently has you listed as a catcher. But which of those did you feel more comfortable? Did you like better, playing behind the dish as catcher or the hot corner at third base?
Yeah, I started out as a third baseman. Like my softball career, I started out as a third baseman. I just like eventually I moved to catcher and I really liked it. And so whenever I was recruiting and all of that, I would say um I was more geared towards catching too. I found that like especially throwdowns. Love throwdowns. I'd say that was one of my favorite parts. That and um I don't know. I mean, third base is always really fun. Like I find third base to be kind of what I started as, but I do see myself as more of a catcher than a third base. Not saying I won't play third base, but definitely I see myself as a catcher now more so than I did. So, yeah. Yeah. I'd say I'm definitely more geared towards catching at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, catching is the thing that gets you the most excited to play defensively.
Yeah.
Emily or Jessica, final questions for Mika before we let her go?
Yeah,
final
I
question.
always
Oh, go ahead, Emily.
sorry, I just always like to ask, I mean, as a freshman, you obviously hear about rivalries. Is there a game you guys have already played or you're really looking forward to play against any teams?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm super excited to play Northern Colorado for the sole reason that I was also looking into their school. So I'm really excited to play them. Yeah, that's, I think, the biggest game that I'm going to be really pumped for.
And my question is, what's been your favorite game so far?
I'm not really sure. I mean, like, I feel like every game is really fun, especially with the girls here. The girls make it so fun. The girls make each game just like really energetic and stuff. Uh, I mean, even though we lost the Southern Utah game, I think that was really fun. Just like just being able to like keep the energy up, all of that. That was just really fun. Another really fun game were the games in California. I found that a lot of us had a lot of energy, and it was like the warmer weather and just like us being able to all travel together. That was a really fun experience as well. Just the whole experience in California, I think, was just really fun. So I'd say those were probably my favorite games.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Mika Chong, we want to thank you so much for taking some time to chat with us a little bit about your journey from the Bay Area, like we said, and the success that you've had at the plate now in your first season in a Wildcat uniform and continuing that success on. And so who knows? The sky's the limit at this point. Like we said, the numbers are really good so far. And this is just, the first half of a hopefully storied career in a Wildcat uniform.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. This was super fun. So,
We
yeah,
appreciate you. So, Mika Chong, once again, thanks so much for taking some time to chat with us here on Weber State Weekly.
thank you.
We'll see you.
Have a good one.
Bye.
You too.
All right. We want to thank Mika Chong one more time for taking some time to chat with us here on Weber State Weekly. Like we said, super fun, guys. I like what you said. We're like, I could definitely see how her demeanor definitely just kind of pays dividends at the plate, where she's very, very patient, very laid back, kind of let the pitcher pitch to you. It's really paid, in a lot of ways thus far for the Wildcats, and so hopefully that mentality is infectious. I also like what she said about the energy. She's right, and we've talked to, I think it was I can't remember if it was Faith or Lauren Ho that talked about like being on the road and having to kind of like bring your own party, right? Because Wildcat, the softball club has to play on the road for a good portion of the non-conference season, just because of the nature. It's cold in Utah when they start out in February, so they're playing games in Arizona, they're playing in Arizona, Nevada, Southern California, all of that. And so if I were to pick, like, it seems like that'd be the funnest squad to play with on campus.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
I
Yeah,
think,
for sure.
I think one of the most exciting things about Mika is her mentality as a freshman. Like, she already kind of knows what's working for her, and she already has so many years ahead of her.
Yeah. Well, let's change gears here now. Let's talk a little bit about this last weekend up in Pocatello, and then we'll look forward to the series coming up against Southern Utah. This will be the Wildcats' first conference homestand, and they'll have two back-to-back. They'll play SUU this week, and then next weekend they'll take on the Grizz. But last week we talked a lot. We made a lot of hay about this pitching staff for Pocatello, up in Pocatello for Idaho State. Rainey and I want to make sure I got this right. McMurray, both of them had really low ERAs, were top, 5-6 in the conference in ERA. And I had told you ladies that I was nervous that, maybe the Wildcats would struggle offensively. And that wasn't the case. They really, and especially Rainey, because, she was supposed to be the toughest pitcher. She pitched 2 games, the first game and the third. And that third game, she gave up. I mean, the Wildcats ended up scoring 17 runs in that third game, and it was a windy game. But she gave up 11 of those runs. And so just Wildcats really just got to her. And so the question I wanted to put to you both was, what were you surprised by that? What was it that gave them so much success against what we thought was going to be a really, really tough outing against the squad?
I think I've noticed when I've been able to watch the team and not just watch the live stats, but one thing I've noticed is once they get on those like rolls, like the momentum starts going, like it's hard to stop them. Like it seems like once one cracks the pitcher, they all can.
Yeah, I sort of noted that a little bit in that third game. Well, I guess maybe a little bit in that first game too, where it felt like Rainey would give up a hit or would walk somebody. And it felt like just that act of having somebody to watch on the bases made a difference mentally for her, and maybe it was just enough of her attention away from pitching that they were able to then just kind of get to her and chase her out of the game. And so I wondered if I noticed that in those couple of games that it seemed like it made a difference, that, like you said, that she'd get a little rattled.
Yeah, and it looked in that first game, I don't remember if it was 4 or 5 innings, but like they seemed pretty even, right, in terms of pitching. And there in the beginning, I was like, okay, this is going to be the game we thought it was going to be. And then it just changed, right? And after it changed in that first game, really the rest of the series looked different. I mean, we did have to come from a bit far behind in that third game, but overall, it just wasn't the match that I had anticipated. I certainly thought we would split 2-1. And we looked really good. And I think looking that good against a team that we knew was this good, not only with the pitching, but with their batting average, was pretty high up there too. I'm impressed with how he looked in the game. I did wonder a little bit because of how windy it was, like, is this a factor for them? Because I don't know like what the conditions are up there usually, right? Like if it's a periodic thing, I can see how that could impact their game because maybe we get more wind down here. So I don't know how much that was a factor, but overall, it definitely looked different than I thought it was going to this weekend.
Yeah, because I was kind of with you, Jessica, on that third game. The Wildcats had won the doubleheader the previous day, so they had won the series at that point, right? So I was like, okay, that's good. I had hoped that we could go 2-1 against this Bengals squad because we talked a lot about it last week about like this is not the Bengals of old who are just a doormat. They've got some quality wins against the likes of Boise State, who like UNLV, who the Wildcats beat earlier in the season, were favored to win the Mountain West Conference. So we don't know exactly what to expect. And so when they went down in that third game, it was like, okay, you went 2-1 against a good in conference opponent. That's what it's going to be. The Wildcats, it was 7-3 going into the fourth. The Wildcats get one back, and so it's like, okay, it's 7-4, and then they add 2, so then it's 9-4, and it's like, well, that's what it is. But then those fifth and sixth frames, man, like just offensive explosion, and a lot of it was because of the long ball, right? So the Wildcats ended up hitting 4 home runs in that game, which ties a school record, which they also tied against Utah in Ogden with 4 home runs in that game. And so they go for, and I mean, and this is where it really felt like, oh, the Wildcats, they could win. Like they're gonna win. Like we're not just writing this game off. Like they're gonna sweep this. They get 5 in the fifth, and then they get 8 in the sixth, and it's just like, okay, wow, the offense is awake. I mean, thoughts on that offensive production, because the previous games, you're scoring 5 runs and the pitching was good enough to hold, which was a great number, right? Like you don't want to see another repeat of like that CSU Northridge game where the Wildcats lose 0-1, right? Like we didn't see that this weekend.
Yeah, it was great. And I think we talked a little bit about it last week. I can't really remember, but maybe it was a couple weeks ago of, is it the pitching game or is it the hitting game? Like which one kind of matters more? With chicken before the egg here. And gosh, it's both, right? Like to just be that incredible offensively against a team once again that we thought we might struggle with. That was what was most impressive to me, right? To have 4 home runs in that last game against somebody you're like, this might be the best pitching team that we see in the Big Sky Conference, right? It just I can't wait for this weekend to see the crazy things we pull out, right?
Yeah, certainly probably the best 1-2 punch that the Wildcats will face. There are maybe better individual pitchers
Right.
that the Wildcats will see, like Portland State has. They've got a great pitcher in
And Sac State too, right?
in Olivia Gray, and then Sac State has Marissa Bertuccio. Both great pitchers, right? But I mean, this 1-2 punch with Idaho State with Haley Rainey and Emma McMurray. I mean, there's not really anything else like that in the conference.
Right.
I definitely think of the teams to start off conference play, I think it happened the best way it could. I mean, obviously, I think we all thought that game 3 was slipping out of our hands, but
Yeah,
I think knowing we can come over that hurdle at the start of the Big Sky conference, sorry, and just seeing like what's next, because like we said, I mean, each teams have good pitchers, but not like more like this is a good pitching team.
yeah, they were. And we talked about it last week as well, that they were also a very productive team at the plate. Going into that series, the Bengals were like right now they're the third best, but like they were up there like top 3 batting team in the conference, even ahead of Weber State, who's right now hitting 282 as a team. They're hitting 285 now, but the Bengals, we talked a lot about how it was this kind of like perfect mix of good pitching with really good hitting, but the one thing was they were a little bit up and down. They were a little bit inconsistent, and it felt like maybe that came back to get them, because especially in that third game, they let it get away from them when it looked like at 9-4 going into the fifth. Like you're getting close now to maybe if you can score a couple more, you're going to rule the Wildcats, which that's saying something, but it wasn't to be. So I guess we can wrap up this conversation about Idaho State by, I don't know, if there was a way to talk about this series in a single moment, what would it be for you?
Chloe home run, top of the fifth, third game. Because I
Yeah.
think it was the turning point, just what you were talking about, where it was like, oh, we might lose this one. And then it's like, no. Here, welcome, Chloe. And then it was bam, 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 right after that to have, that many home runs. And I think, part of it is that energy and seeing like, oh, we can do this. And and I think from there, it switched that third game, and it was just a crazy third game, right?
Yeah, it really
17
was.
points is just out of this world. So that would be the moment I would use.
Yeah, I mean, because like we said, the Wildcats end up winning that game 17-11. It's not like the Bengals didn't have their own production; they did.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica beat
Emily,
me to it. I was about to say it was Chloe. I mean, with a player like Chloe, like she is a big part of Weber State softball. I mean, isn't this her 5th year? We talked about that earlier.
right?
And for her to go up there already leading home runs and to just kind of like say like, hey, we're not done. Like if she can tell the team that, the team can produce.
Yeah, so for me it was that moment, but it was because I mean you all didn't make the trip up there, but it was that third game was funny because there was a color commentator, which there wasn't in the previous 2 games on Friday, and so the color commentator is talking about, oh, there's so much wind that nothing's going to get out of the infield, and then like immediately, like as he's saying those words, Chloe hits that bomb that begins that big run to really get the Wildcats back into the game where, they're down 5 runs. And then all of a sudden, bam, 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 bam. Now they're back in it. That, like we said, in that frame, they end up scoring 5 to say like, hey, we're here. And so it's just like, oh, wow. Okay. That's what we're doing. And so I like that moment too, because like I said, I think that's where the switch flips. But it was funny to me that on the broadcast, the guy's like, there's nothing getting out of the infield and blah, blah, blah. And then like immediately Chloe hits a bomb. And it's like broadcasters, like the perfect broadcaster's jinx.
For the sake of the Bengals, he probably should have bit his tongue, but I mean, I'm not complaining. we came out of Pocatello with a sweep.
Yeah. So
should have known better.
Yeah, but it is what it is. So now I wanted to talk and shift a little bit now and look to the future. So like we noted, the Wildcats win all 3 of those games in Pocatello against Idaho State. Good series, and it feels weird a little bit saying that, but as we noted last week, this is not an easy Idaho State team, and should the Wildcats see them again, you can expect probably a tough battle because, like we said, those first 2. I mean, that second game, they held on by the skin of their teeth to win 5-4. And there wasn't a lot of offense until the later innings. And so, yeah, it's they're going to be a tough opponent in the conference tournament.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit about SUU because SUU is a different kind of opponent, aren't they? SUU they're bad. They're bad in a lot of ways. They are the worst. They are the
That's
worst
one way
batting team.
To put it.
Yeah, they're the worst batting team in the conference. They are the worst pitching team by far in the conference. They're just bad in so many ways. And so they're coming in here. I had the record in the notes. They're coming in here 0-6 in conference play. So they've lost both of the series that they've played, all games. And they're coming in 3-26 overall. They have won just 3 games, which, by the way, they beat Wisconsin. Like, what is that?
Right.
What is that?
How'd that happen?
I don't know. It's weird. But they're coming in 3 of 26 overall. They've won just 3 games. And so the way that I saw this series was like a trap series in a way, because it's like, this is a bad opponent. Everybody's beating up on this opponent. So in your ladies' minds, like, how do the Wildcats make sure that they don't get complacent against this opponent, take care of business, win all 3 games, and go up 6-0 in conference play?
One of the hard things about the Big Sky is like I feel like I mean I'm not an athlete, but I personally am like, well, we have a rivalry against this team. I feel like every team in the Big Sky is a rivalry. So dare I say, like, don't count the birds out. Like, I know I just said that announcer should have bit their tongue. Maybe I need to bite mine, but just don't count them out. You need to play this like it's the top team.
Yeah, don't play down to the
because
competition. Handle business.
yeah, like it's just they need to go in there like they would against the top team, and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, I have obviously a really similar approach to it. I think go in and, let's start Mo or start Arissa and get started, right? And let's play the game like we would. And I think this could absolutely be a game where we can get a lot of experience from a lot of different players once we, get into the series. But I think let's start out strong, don't do something different, because I think that might be the inclination of to start different from the get-go. But let's play and not overlook this team, and then we can mix it up a little bit as we start to get through the weekend. Because, right, if they're beating Wisconsin, then
Something's there.
it's possible, right?
Yeah. So we talked a little bit earlier about the fact that the Wildcats had tied that 4 home run in a game mark twice this season, which is the team record. The Birds are coming in with an 8.96 ERA. It is by far, it is like double the next worst ERA. It's bad. So that for those who don't know baseball stats or stats like this, ERA is the earned run average. It's how many runs they're giving up on average per appearance. They're giving up roughly 9 runs a game. That's how many runs they're giving up roughly. And so for the Wildcats, like we said, 4 home runs. We've got kind of this perfect storm now where we have a very talented and potent offense who has shown they put up 17 on the Bengals the last time that they faced them in Pocatello. I mean, is there the possibility that the Wildcats could break that team record and go 5 home runs? Because they like to hit at Wildcat softball field.
I mean, I don't want to say anything too poor about the Birds, but I want that record to be beat on a team that doesn't have that ERA. Like, it's like, well, you did what we expected. I would love to see that with to be honest, a better team. I would love to see them break that record with a better team, but I'll be happy regardless.
Yeah.
I'm going, yes. Let's break it. Let's go for 5. Let's have Chloe get 2 in a game. I'm looking at, national stats, and I'm like, with somebody from Sac State is above Chloe right now in home runs. She's pretty consistent. She's sitting 47 right now. But, this is a great weekend to bump ourselves in home run stats. This could be the chance.
Yeah, I agree. Like, this could definitely be the chance because this Birds team has not had a lot go right for it.
And we're home, right?
And they're home, right? And as we've seen already, like the Wildcats really play well at home, which is a good sign because the conference tournament will be played in Ogden again this year. And so, if the Wildcats continue to play like they did against Utah, the way they against that Utah Valley game, no doubt they left no doubt in that game. Like it wasn't like the game in St. George where they were playing in the Dixie State tournament. They took care of business and they put the Wolverines out early. And so that's a good sign. And so that's why I'm very interested to see how the next 6 games, well, really 7 games, I think it's a 7-game homestand, because Utah will come back to Ogden one more time, I believe. I'm interested to see how this pans out because it's clear to me that the Wildcats like playing at home, and that bodes well for the challenges that will come as the weeks wear on. Last question. And you sort of hinted at this a little bit, Jessica, about kind of get things rolling early against, play your game, get things rolling early against the Birds, and then start to tinker with lineups.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once again, the Birds' worst batting average in the conference, they're hitting 210. So how do you handle pitching in this one? Because we've got some pitchers like Arissa Henderson who have been very, very good. Do you give them some time off? Do you let somebody like Mandy Sink take a little bit more? I mean, Mandy Sink had a really big game up in Pocatello. I think it was that second game that she pitched in, and did a pretty good job. And so I don't know, like how do you handle the pitching in this game where or the series when that the team you're facing has not hit the ball well, they haven't seen it well, and so is that an opportunity to maybe get some of the pitchers who haven't had as much opportunity because of the strength of the schedule? Give them some opportunities against an opponent who is not playing their best softball right now?
Yeah, I mean, I
one of
think
the best.
absolutely. Oh, go ahead,
Go
Emily.
ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think you bring out Arissa and Mo. Like, I think that they will get a chance to rest, but even getting out and playing in a game is good for them as well to not have so much time off. I think absolutely this is going to be a weekend where we get to see Maddie Peterson a little bit more. We've seen her a few times this season, but certainly let's have that experience, because why we're strong now is because we have strong pitchers. So we want to make sure that they get that experience. We just shouldn't come out cocky. We need to come out and play like we would normally play with a different team, and then there will be plenty of time in later innings or later games where we can mix it up a little bit.
Yeah. Thoughts, Emily?
I just think one of my favorite parts about this Weber State team is, I mean, Arissa is amazing, Mo is amazing, but I'm not worried if they're not up there. Like, we have the depth of our pitching squad is there, and so I think, as long, like Jessica said, as long as we're treating it like any other opponent, I'm not too worried about whoever's going to be out there, which I think speaks a lot about the team.
Yeah, I wonder if this is potentially the opportunity where you might see Jacqueline Gold come out. We haven't seen her really at all this season. I think that obviously, like, she's talented and there's some opportunity there, but maybe it's tough this year's rotation to crack because Arissa has been so dominant, and Mo has earned her spot being the reigning conference pitcher of the year. Plus Mandy Sink has been very good in spots, and so, like, with those three, it's just been really, really hard to crack. Even Maddie Peterson hasn't had a lot of appearances, and so I just wonder if once, like you said, Jessica, you start to see folks get comfortable and they get settled in and the game is sort of in hand, then we say, okay, we're going to try some things. We're going to bring some folks out who haven't maybe had as much opportunity to play, and use this as a chance to kind of build that depth and some confidence. The other thing I was going to say on the other side of the ball at the plate was we saw Mariah Ramirez get into one against Idaho State, and kind of return to that 2021 form where she was hitting bombs. We had an interview with her last season, and we said she's like Shohei Ohtani, right? Like, she's hitting bombs and she's absolutely dominating lights out pitching. Now Arissa Henderson is doing that. Plus Mo Ramirez, it feels like, is getting that swagger back at the plate. That's a thing that I want to see this weekend. Is it would be nice to see Mo Ramirez get that confidence back at the plate, because we know she has the slug, we know she has the power, and so she can get that swagger going into the rest of the conference slate. Man, that's going to pay dividends for the Wildcats, I think.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, Emily, any final thoughts on SUU?
No, we got to send them out on a sweep. There's nothing better than beating the Birds. Like, come on. So I'm pumped.
Hashtag beat the Birds, obvi. Like, that's what I always put
Like, we have to send them out the way they deserve. Like, I have no problem. 3-0, we're done.
I'm with you. Send them packing. All right, so let's take a look at the upcoming schedule then. Like we noted, this weekend, Wildcats will be facing Southern Utah at Wildcat Softball Field Friday, April 8th. There'll be a doubleheader on Friday. That'll be kind of the format for the Wildcats and for all softball in conference for the remainder of the season. So 2 games on Friday, 1 on Saturday. So 2 p.m. At Wildcat Softball Field on Friday, April 8th. Then the second game at 4 p.m. You can watch the game on ESPN Plus like me, or you can just go up to the ballpark and try and get in on, if you got to take off work a little bit early, get up there for that second game at 4 p.m. Tickets are at weberstatesports.com. Just buy the season tickets. I bought 2. They're $45 a piece. Like, it's right there for you, man. So then Saturday, April 9th, Wildcats will face the Birds for, at least as far as we know, one final time. We'll see what the conference tournament brings, but Saturday, April 9th, 12 p.m., Wildcat Softball Field. I don't know. I didn't look at the weather, but I don't know. Weather's supposed to be good this weekend. Do you all know by chance?
I think it might be, like, not as hot as Friday, but it's not going to be an awful weekend from what I remember.
Okay.
Like, I think Friday's going to be in the 70s.
Oh, nice.
But
it is Friday 72, Saturday 53. Okay. It is not supposed to rain either day. The weather app has lied to me before. So
yeah.
Do you
It
want
lied
no
to me
traffic
yesterday, so
from
let's.
Yeah, it's a big drop to
It
go
lies
from
all the
70
time,
to
so
50. Yeah, but it is Utah. And so it's Utah in April. If you've been in Utah long enough and you know what Utah weather is like in April, it can go from being the nicest day on the planet to snowing in the same
it's supposed to
weekend,
snow
right?
on Tuesday, so you're really just speaking the truth.
Yeah, like April is just wild in Utah. You know, there have been times where the ski resorts close and then they get a big snowstorm and it's like, oh, that sucks, because that could have added to the base, but whatever. Then
Happens.
next weekend, Wildcats will be facing Montana. The Grizz are coming to town. And so Friday, April 15th, there'll be 2 games, 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., just like this week. And then Saturday, April 16th, a game at noon. Games, like I said, are on ESPN Plus, or you can just get your tickets and go up there. I mean, guys, you can go up there and boo the Grizz. Is there anything better? There really
No.
isn't. Go boo. Like, we get the Birds one weekend, then you get the Grizz the next weekend. Like, that's so much opportunity to boo conference rivals. Like, it's great. It's just phenomenal. So go
I'm
take
excited
advantage
for the
of it.
Grizz. They're 4-2. I think that's going to be a
Yeah.
good matchup. And there's nothing better than beating the Grizz. I say that about every team. I'm the worst. If you're not Weaver, it's Weaver State or bust. But I love beating the Grizz too.
Yeah, the Grizz have kind of a similar thing going on right now where they also a good hitting team, second in the conference right now with a team BA of 288. Pitching a little bit run of the mill, kind of middling for the conference, maybe a little bit low, in fact. Their team ERA right now, 4.16. And so they've got an even 16-16 win-loss record. So, but I think that you're right. They're a team that can beat you. I think that opening series, I'll have to go and check really fast, but I think that opening series, they ended up beating Portland State.
I believe they beat at least one. I don't remember if it was a series. If it was a series, I don't know the whole outcome, but I know they at least beat them once, I think.
Yeah, no, they didn't win the series, but they did win the Saturday game 5-4. And so Portland State, like we've talked about, that final series against the Vikings in Portland at the end of the season for the Wildcats is going to be probably really big. And the Grizz were able to take one, so they're not a pushover. It should be a good series against them.
I'd
So let's
be
wrap up the show.
excited to see how. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
Oh, I'm just saying I'd be excited to see how Montana comes into Ogden off of that SUU win. I mean, it's kind of complete opposite, so I'm excited to see how they try and handle the Cats.
Yeah. And one thing to note is the COVID year, I think it was in 2020 before the season got canceled, the Wildcats did lose to Montana down at the Grand Canyon tournament. And that was sort of like a salty thing and like in a wound for me because it was like, we freaking lost to the Grizz. Like, we're going to get them back. And then we didn't get them back because the season got canceled. So we'll see. Email weberstateweekly@gmail.com, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We got Patreon, like I said, and the blog. I'm serious, guys. I really am going to post those interviews from Patreon this week. I really am going to do it. I just been really busy and I haven't done it, but I really will do it. I promise it's going to happen. And then everybody can go and watch those recruiting interviews because they're great. But that's the show. Thank you, ladies, both, for taking some time to chat with us. Wrap it up like we usually do. Weber State, Weber State.
Great.
Great.
Great. Go Wildcat.